know a Nile record when you hear it because it just locks into a groove.
I don't know anyone who's had as many songs as him.
It reads like a sort of history of 80s pop.
Not many people can say that. Living legend.
C'est quand même une machine à groover. Il est né avec ça dans le sang, c'est viscéral.
He's an extraordinary musician and he's a great producer.
Duran Duran would definitely not have had the same career without Nile.
He's another level.
Now Nile is like this, you know, international treasure.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues.
Touch for the very first time when your heart beats.
Hij creëerde de grootste hit van de afgelopen 35 jaar voor verschillende generaties. Als oprichter van Chic en als geniaal producer is Nile Rodgers nog steeds immens populair.
New York has always been my home.
I was a good child. I was a hardworking, crazy child that, loved music and loved my city.
Als kind van een 13-jarige moeder in New York van de jaren 50 staat hij er vaak alleen voor. De muziek wordt een belangrijke metgezel voor hem, maar niets wees erop dat hij zich zou ontwikkelen tot het muzikale genie dat hij geworden is.
I was raised by heroin addicts, so there were drugs in the household, but I was so young, so I didn't know that any of that stuff was negative or bad. That's just how my parents were. So I saw them as wonderful. They were fantastic to me. My parents almost felt magical.
Nile komt in aanraking met de segregatie en het racisme van zijn tijd. Films als Superfly en Shaft, de grote toppers van de blaxploitation, maken hem bewust van zijn zwarte identiteit. Hij steunt de Black Panther-beweging, maar meer vanuit sociale dan vanuit politieke motieven.
When I was younger, my mother married a man who was white, who was Jewish. So I was raised in an interracial family and a culture that had black, white, Puerto Rican. Also, my mom had a lot of gay friends. So we had a very sort of a bohemian, a real hip kind of, lifestyle. So I didn't start to understand that people saw race differently until I started to go out in the world and other people started to either attack us. But when I got older, I progressively realized that other people started to recognize race, politics, and music in a way that my family didn't.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Probably the reason why I chose music was because music at an early age, you had to practice. Music I had to go by myself, and I was by myself a lot of the time, and I would just have to. I didn't choose guitar until I was 16 years old. By the time I was 19, I was already proficient reader and player on the guitar, and I had my first job at Sesame Street.
In 1970 heeft Nile een ontmoeting die zijn leven zal veranderen met Bernard Edwards. Samen richten ze de Chic Organization op.
Where did we first meet? We first met in the Bronx. I was looking for a guitar player and I was working at the post office.
That's right.
And I realized that you were the boyfriend of her daughter's boyfriend.
Whatever.
Right. And I had been looking for you, but I couldn't find you.
Ils ont mis au centre de leur production leur travail de guitare et de basse parce que déjà ils se convenaient l'un l'autre.
Nile and I been together since we were about 17, so we've known him about 25 years. And when I first met him, he was a hippie, and he had really thick glasses and a funny hairdo with his hair sticking up in the front. And he was a real skinny little guy with a really big guitar, so that's my memory of him. In the beginning, we didn't have enough money to make a record. So what Nile and I used to do, we had a friend that worked in a studio, and at night when the studio would close, we would sneak in afterwards and actually make our songs. We recorded Dance, 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 and Everybody Dance for free that way because we didn't have any money. And our friend worked in the studio, and we'd sneak in at night. And Luther was doing a job over at Radio City, and we were the backup band. So we'd go over there and play in between shows. We'd run back to the studio and put down some more parts and come back and finish the show. So we made our first tapes for free, but it was like after hours. We were sneaking around.
But Chic wasn't just the guitar, it was like the groove, you know? Nile is known for the groove. His signature is the guitar. But the groove, you know, those things are infectious.
Chic music, they were almost like funky punk, I thought, Chic, because they weren't terribly lush.
Eind jaren 70 is dé grote tijd van de disco, die ook heel belangrijk is geweest voor de emancipatie van minderheden. Zwarte, Latino's en homo's staan allemaal samen op de dansvloer. Everybody Dance van Chic wordt dan ook een titel waar je niet omheen kunt. Nile Rodgers en Bernard Edwards schrijven samen de grootste disco-hits, maar toch zien ze zichzelf niet als een disco-groep. Voor hen is Chic een concept en ze besluiten hun imago een andere vorm te geven.
In America we had a big problem with racism, so we thought if we pretended to be French playing American funk and it was sophisticated, we would bypass the racist element because we were French. And in America, France is almost seen not as people, but as a culture in a strange way. But that was only a marketing gimmick at the very beginning. And that's why we didn't put our pictures on the first cover or anything like that. Once we became known and they saw that we were basically just an R&B band from New York, then at that point we already had an audience.
You know, other records pretended and tried very hard to be sophisticated. I think Chic didn't need to do a lot to have that incredible sophistication. I mean, people have said that Chic were a black disco band trying to sound white, and I don't really think so. I think they were trying to sound like themselves.
We were invited by Grace Jones to meet with her. And it was New Year's Eve, the biggest night of the year at the biggest club in the world. You know, she had personally invited us. She told us to go to the back door and just tell them that we were personal friends of Miss Grace Jones. And we did it, and the guy didn't believe us. And he slammed the door in our faces and told us to fuck off. We tried to do it again, and we tried to imitate Grace's accent because she called us on the phone, and we never met her in person. But, you know, on the phone she had this strange accent. So we said, oh, no. We're personal friends of Miss Grace Jones. And that sounded like Bela Lugosi or a cross between Bela Lugosi and Bob Marley or something. And once again, the guy slammed the door in our faces, really angry, and said, man, fuck off. So we went to my apartment, which was just around the corner from Studio 54, and we started jamming on fuck off. Fuck Studio 54. Fuck off. Fuck Studio 54. Fuck off. Fuck Studio 54. And then we turned that into Freak out. You freak, say chic. Freak out. Freak out. You freak, say chic. Freak out.
Have you heard about the new dance craze?
Met Le Freak tonen de oprichters van Chic hun muzikale genialiteit. Ze slagen erin om met een minimum aan instrumenten een daverende hit te schrijven, waarvan wereldwijd ruim 7 miljoen exemplaren worden verkocht.
Comme souvent dans les chansons dance ou disco, on commence toujours par la rythmique. Donc là, en l'occurrence, les premières pistes sont les pistes de batterie. Donc on peut les écouter ici. Je sais pas ce que vous entendez là. Bon. Ça, c'est la rythmique de Le Freak. A priori comme ça, c'est pas évident, mais on va commencer par ajouter la basse de Bernard Edwards. On commence à reconnaître déjà un peu, mais ce qui est phénoménal, c'est qu'il suffit de un élément, en plus de la rythmique qui est, on va dire, une rythmique, ça peut être tout et n'importe quoi. Il suffit juste de un petit élément mélodique pour déjà avoir la puce à l'oreille. Et le deuxième élément qui a été enregistré chronologiquement après la batterie et la basse, puisque c'est dans l'ordre que ça se découvre, et c'est cela. Donc on va attendre la reprise de la boucle. Et là, on se dit, mais là je commence vraiment à connaître. Donc ça c'est la première guitare de Nile Rodgers. Il y en a deux. Il enregistre toujours deux guitares qui sont entrelacées. Et là on va reconnaître tout de suite. Voilà. Et là, grosso modo, on a mis 1, 2, 3, deux guitares, une batterie, une basse, donc 4 éléments. On a déjà 90% de la chanson. Et le secret de Chic, c'est ça, c'est de faire un groove avec quasiment rien, c'est-à-dire 3 personnes dans une pièce, et on a la chanson. Voilà. Et le reste, finalement, ça va être enjolivé, tout ça. Séparément, la basse, elle accompagne, mais toute seule, elle veut rien dire. La guitare, elle accompagne la basse et d'autres choses, mais toute seule, elle veut rien dire. Là, c'est vraiment, voilà, il y avait Nile Rodgers, il y avait Bernard Edwards, c'était leur groupe. Et ça s'entend. C'est-à-dire qu'on en met un, on met l'autre, et on a à peu près tout. En général, les bassistes et les guitaristes sont des accompagnateurs, donc c'est vraiment pas eux dont on se souvient. Donc ils ont quand même réussi le fantasme de tout musicien, c'est-à-dire de musicien accompagnateur, devenir vraiment celui qui est en premier plan de chaque morceau. On parle de Nile Rodgers aujourd'hui, on parle de Bernard Edwards, même s'il est décédé il y a fort longtemps. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de gens qui ont réussi à créer ça dans l'histoire de la musique.
Because that's what makes Chic unique. We don't just stick to it, we interpret it. So I'll play, when I'm playing the groove, I'll play.
Met de hits I Want Your Love en Good Times wordt de naam van Rodgers en Edwards definitief gevestigd.
Well, Nile and I started out producing together. We became producers because when we formed the band Chic, nobody would produce us. So we had to be the producers. We wrote the songs and nobody wanted to do it. So Nile and I became producers. We didn't know what a producer was.
Rolling Stones and Bette Midler. They asked us to produce them because at the time disco music was so popular. Everybody felt in order to have a competitive record on the charts you had to have a disco record. And for some reason they thought that we were the kings of disco, that we had Studio 54 in a bottle and we could just pour that on somebody and they would have disco records. And it's really interesting because we didn't think of ourselves like that at all. So the fact that everybody saw us with this lens, we were the disco kings. It was interesting to us because if we were to do a Rolling Stones record, the last thing we would have done was a disco record.
I mean, they'd been offered names to work with, famously Aretha Franklin, and they said we don't want to be the guys responsible for making Aretha Franklin go disco. And Arma Ertegun sort of offered them the pick of Atlantic's artists, including the Stones, to work with, and they chose Sister Sledge, who were sort of fairly unknown at that point.
The president of the record company thought about us. He thought we had this magical formula, and I said yes, and we have it so well that I could make your secretary a star. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because every song that we write is based on truth. So then he tells us this story about this group that's on the label called Sister Sledge. And they're like family to the label, and they really believed in them and all of this stuff. And when we got home, we looked at what he had dictated to us, and it was basically the lyrics and the framework to We Are Family.
het succes van Sister Sledge twijfelt niemand meer aan hun kunnen. In Europa vraagt producer Claude Carrère ze om het volgende album te schrijven voor zijn protégé Sheila.
Quand il prend quelqu'un comme moi qui était complètement inconnu aux États-Unis, etc., il avait envie de construire la suite de ma carrière.
So we wrote songs about the things that were more sophisticated in pop music at the time. When Spacer came out, we didn't know if it would work because it was English for a French artist, but somehow it resonated and it worked, and it really worked, and it transformed her life, and she became much more independent after that. That record was so big for her, it did exactly what we wanted. It gave her power, and it made her stronger.
Mon producteur de l'époque, lui, trouvait ça pas assez disco. Il était désespéré, il aimait pas Spacer, il voulait quelque chose qui correspondait à Singing in the Rain, tout ce que j'avais fait avant. Et Nile a dit, moi, je ne parle pas avec vous, vous êtes la personne qui s'occupe de l'argent, je veux parler à l'artiste et je ne verrai qu'avec elle. Et c'est ça que j'ai trouvé génial, c'est qu'ils ont pris ma carrière, ils lui ont fait faire un demi-tour et ils m'ont mis ailleurs. Et ça m'a ouvert le monde.
He's always looking for that thing to make people move and that uplifting feeling.
I've been very lucky that I've worked with really great people all my life. Like, I don't work with people that are just sort of okay. I work with people that are great.
I think he has allegiance to the groove.
Onstuitbaar lijkt de opmars van de twee jonge producers. In 1980 wil popdiva Diana Ross haar image veranderen en zich losmaken uit de klauwen van Motown. Nile en Bernard bedenken een nieuw album voor haar.
Our relationship with Diana Ross, that instead of being like Motown and just giving her songs, we interviewed her and wrote songs exactly for her. We really wanted to write a song about the new Diana Ross. She was going to turn the world upside down. That's what she wanted to do. That was her big desire, was to turn her world and her life upside down.
Upside down, boy, you turn me inside out and round, upside down, boy, you turn me inside out and round.
There was a transvestite club called the Gilded Grape. And I went there one night where I'm club hopping at all the underground clubs. And I go into the bathroom to use the urinal. And I'm standing there, and on either side of me, there are a bunch of guys dressed in drag, but they're all dressed up like Diana Ross. And they all happen to be in the bathroom with me at that one moment. I was so taken with that picture, that image, I ran outside and I called my partner. I said, Bernard, remember this. We have to write a song called I'm Coming Out.
Cette idée fabuleuse d'associer un terme de cette communauté à la volonté de Diana Ross de sortir de la Motown, de s'imposer comme une grande artiste, et donc il a écrit une chanson à deux lectures. Elle a compris une des lectures, elle n'a pas compris la deuxième, il s'est pas étendu sur la deuxième, il lui a pas menti, mais il lui a pas non plus tout expliqué.
So when the first mixes of the Diana album were sent to Motown, Miss Ross wasn't happy with them, and I think there was just a fear that it might have been a bit too out there for her, a bit too radical, and her audiences might not accept the leap from where she had been to where she was.
We went to her house, we were over impressed, and we wrote about what we saw and what we believed. So this was the album of truth. In the end, it all worked out great because it's the biggest record of her life. I mean, Diana Ross never had a 6 million selling album. And that's huge for anybody, but in those days, that was particularly large. I mean, a black artist with a 6 million selling album, huge.
In America in 1979, the sort of disco sucks movement really started to take off. And there was a DJ at a Chicago radio station, Steve Dahl. He had this idea at the halftime in a baseball game to have a disco demolition and encouraged everyone to bring along their sort of 12-inch singles, disco records, and dynamite.
Between games, WLUP's Steve Dahl led his followers in song and chants on the field and then proceeded to blow up the disco records collected in a box in center field.
On voyait le disco dans la pub, on voyait le disco sur tous les produits vestimentaires et il y a eu un ras-le-bol général. Toutes les radios avaient changé leur format aux États-Unis, étaient passées d'un format pop-rock à un format disco parce que c'est ça qui faisait l'audience, parce que c'est ça qui vendait de la pub et on n'entendait que ça partout. Or, cette musique, il ne faut pas l'oublier, est issue des minorités.
It was certainly driven by racism, homophobia, and things like that. But I also think that it was driven by economics and a cultural misunderstanding because the disco artists seem to be living a glamorous lifestyle in the midst of the greatest financial recession since the Great Depression. So I could see how people in the Midwest, especially white working class people and even white lower class people, felt that how could these, Puerto Rican, black people and gay people and, and bra-burning women have such a great time while meanwhile we're in such misery. It's this music, it's this culture, it's these people. And, so I can understand both points of view. But when it came to demonizing an entire segment of music, well, that's where I get pissed off.
La fin très abrupte du disco a été vécue comme un uppercut pour le groupe et pour Nile en particulier. Après, ça a provoqué une crise de confiance pour Nile, ça a provoqué des doutes qui ensuite lui ont permis de faire ce qu'il avait toujours voulu faire, c'est-à-dire de faire tomber les barrières raciales et de pouvoir exprimer son talent avec des artistes issus de toutes les scènes musicales possibles. Donc ça a été aussi une grande chance pour lui.
Op het dieptepunt van zijn carrière loopt Nile Rodgers heel toevallig David Bowie tegen het lijf in een bar in New York. Bowie zit om hits verlegen en Nile wil graag terug in de schijnwerpers. Ondanks de verschillen tussen hen beginnen de twee artiesten aan een vruchtbare samenwerking, zonder platenmaatschappij. En de eerste noten van het album Let's Dance weer klinken.
One morning he walks into my room and he starts playing a folk guitar and he's playing a little riff. And I don't remember what it was exactly, but I do remember it had some kind of moving voice. Something like this. Now this is probably not accurate, but that's what I remember. Something like that. I was afraid of being Nile Rodgers. I was afraid of being the disco guy. I forced myself to not go. It's cool though. I just went all upstrokes. And then that's why when you listen to the record, the brightness and the consistency of hearing all the top notes first make a big difference in this record. And David liked it. He liked the Bowie was sober at the time, and I didn't even understand the concept of being sober, be it in the rock and roll business. I was totally out of control, doing lots of drugs and drinking. But David had talked to me about being sober and becoming sober and how it was an important part of his life. And, you know, coming from a family of heroin addicts, you know, everything has a slang. And in heroin and drug culture, China is heroin and girl is cocaine. So I thought it was a song that he and Iggy Pop had originally written, because it wasn't a new song, it was a song that they had written years ago. And I'm sure he wrote it before he became sober. So I thought it was a song about speedballing. I thought it was a perfectly clever song about China, white, and girl. But I was nervous as hell. I thought he was gonna fire me because it was so corny and so pop. So I pulled David aside and I said, well, you know, David, you know, I'm thinking about that song, China Girl. And here's a little riff I came up with. And I played the, and instead of him firing me, he actually got happy and he went, wow, that's brilliant. And I said, really, you like that? I said, well, check this out. And I had the whole band go, 1, 2, 3. Let's Dance album was done start to finish, mixed and everything in 17 days.
What can we expect, not knowing, I've heard the track, but not knowing what vision we can look forward to?
I think it's a lot more straightforward than anything I've done for a long time. It's not so concerned with juxtaposing surreal images together.
Right.
It's a very direct statement about integration of one culture with another.
Nile, ce qui le préoccupait, c'était de fournir des hits singles à ses clients. Ses clients, c'était les artistes. Ces artistes avaient déjà leur propre crédibilité. Il n'a pas pris un artiste pour le rendre crédible, il a pris un artiste pour le rendre extrêmement populaire.
You might know of the original sin, and you might know how to play with fire.
My In Excess record was really big. I mean, I did In Excess right after Bowie, and that record broke them all around the world. It was their only #1 record.
And then this In Excess song comes along, and I'm like, damn, you know, there was something in it.
And we later found out that who it was, and that Nile Rodgers had produced it, and we wanted some of that.
Dream on, white boy, dream on, black girl, then wake up to a brand new day.
In de jaren 80 behaalt de Britse popgroep Duran Duran zijn grootste successen. Maar Nile verandert de muzikale kleur van de groep om ze nog verder te brengen.
We just really connected right away, and it just felt like we're going to be friends, you know. And I found that remarkable because we were coming from such different backgrounds.
I remember he spent a lot of his time actually out of the studio in the reception space, making phone calls. You know, he was kind of hooking up to book his next session with the next band, and then he'd come in for a few minutes, and he'd listen, he'd make a suggestion. But the focus in those few minutes would be incredible, you know, almost genius-like. You know, he'd come in and say, okay, the drums need to go, brum, 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 bum, bum, bum. Okay, the bass needs to do that, the vocal that, da-da. Okay, get on with it. You know, we'd do what he says, then he'd come back in a bit later. And it was like almost like laser.
The Reflex, I wanted to bring in this new sound that was happening in hip-hop, which was sampling, which was doing repetitive notes, which is obviously still very popular to this day. Some 30-something years later, people are still doing, you know, I mean, Rihanna is doing Umbrella, Ella, you know, everybody's still, you know, sampling and manipulating single notes. But certainly that was the first time that they did it on a Duran record, and it was revolutionary. after I did The Reflex, I did The Wild Boys, which was my conscious decision to try and take them into a much more avant-garde direction.
We just wanted some of that sort of that hip hop, funky stuff. Something that really only black dudes were doing in music. And we wanted a little bit of that. We wanted to get a little darker. And we picked the right man.
In 1984 vraagt een jonge, nog vrij onbekende artieste aan Nile Rodgers om haar tweede album te produceren. Hun samenwerking maakt in één klap een grote ster van haar. De legende die Madonna heet, is een feit.
Madonna avait besoin de Nile Rodgers parce qu'elle était dévorée d'ambition. Elle avait besoin de quelqu'un qui puisse l'accompagner pour obtenir le succès planétaire qu'elle ambitionnait pour elle-même.
The first time I saw her, I wasn't quite convinced. The second time I saw her, I was marching in her parade.
I chose to work with Nile Rodgers because I think that he's a genius, and I wanted to work with a genius on my record. And I think that he embodies a lot of different styles that I think my music embodies. He's very close to the black sound, funk. I mean, the stuff he did with Chic and Sister Sledge and Diana Ross is phenomenal. But he's also made a lot of great pop records with David Bowie and Duran Duran.
Madonna had something that was really brilliant, is that she keyed in on the story. And she knew that the largest segment of music buyers were girls the age of 13 to so-and-so. And she's done this whole rap down. Yes, the largest buyers of music in the pop segment are girls between the age of this and that and losing virginity. It was like, I'm listening to her going, what are you talking about?
Nile était persuadé que Material Girl devait être le premier single parce qu'il trouvait que Like a Virgin était une bonne chanson mais que le refrain n'était pas assez fort. Et elle s'y est opposée, elle avait cette conviction qu'il fallait démarrer par cette chanson, que l'album devait s'appeler Like a Virgin. Elle l'a imposé, alors qu'on en était quand même qu'à son deuxième album, elle a imposé que ça se passe comme ça et l'histoire lui a donné raison.
Like a Virgin is the biggest album of my life. And it's really the biggest album. It's like a lot bigger than other records that are really big records. And I made a deal for what I believe would be the next Madonna record at that same deal level. So a lot of times people ask me, man, after that big success, how come you guys never did another record? I was thinking, well, if I were Madonna, I wouldn't do a record with me either at that price. The first thing I would do is try and renegotiate.
People forget that it was Nile that did that took her from relative obscurity, made a proper album with her, with real musicians, real production, and made her an international star.
De jaren 80 zijn het hoogtepunt van de carrière van Nile Rodgers. De grootste artiesten doen een beroep op zijn talent. Mick Jagger, Brian Ferry, Paul Simon en wederom Grace Jones. In 1985 wordt hij door Billboard uitgeroepen tot beste single producer ter wereld. Maar Nile leeft een bestaan van uitspattingen en drugs. Om niet meer in de verleiding te komen, trekt hij zich steeds meer terug uit de studio's. Tot Bernard Edwards hem in 1992 overhaalt om een nieuw album te schrijven. De comeback van Chic is een feit.
I mean, when Chic got back together in the 90s, again, the world had turned a little bit. And it's almost like it seemed a bit too soon for it. They tried to sort of go down a more sort of funky house route with the Chic Mystique single and the Chicism album. It was a bit like just the wrong moment for it.
Nile and I have been together since we were about 17 years old. And this is the first time we've done a live show in about, God, it's been about 8 years. So I'm very excited about that. And it's our first time performing live in Japan, so I'm really excited about it.
This was Bernard and I practicing for our tour. This was in April of 1996. This is just a few days before he died. And we were at rehearsal and we were having the time of our lives. We were having so much fun. And we would have never known that only a few days later he would pass away. It was an amazing time for me, you know, getting back together with my partner. A day or so after we did this rehearsal, they interviewed him, and he said something that was so poignant. He says that, you know, Nile's my guitar player and I'm his bass player, and to me, that's I almost get choked up talking about it now. It's it defines our relationship perfectly. You know, not only did I think of him as my songwriting partner, my business partner, he was my bass player, and I was his guitar player.
Op 18 april 1996, na afloop van een concert van Chic in Tokio, bezwijkt Bernard Edwards in zijn hotelkamer aan longontsteking. Nile voelt zich totaal verloren na zijn plotselinge dood. Maar vanaf dat moment wordt dit zijn missie. Hun muziek laten voortbestaan, zodat het publiek die nooit zal vergeten.
When we do the Sister Sledge song called Thinking of You, it's almost obvious. I can't ever play that without thinking of him, because the way that we wrote the song, the way we did the lyric was, honestly, I had come up with the music. And Bernard and I were talking on the phone, and he asked me, what was I thinking of? And I said, actually, I'm thinking of you, because I'm always thinking about what he's going to play in the bass. And he said, that's funny, because I was thinking about you. I was wondering what you were writing. And we got together, and we called the song Thinking of You. So every time I play it, I always think of him. It's impossible not to.
We're going to do a song that Bernard
De producties van Nile Rodgers en Bernard Edwards houden al decennia lang stand. Mede dankzij het talent van andere artiesten die hun grootste hits samplen. In 1979 duikt het befaamde basloopje van Good Times op in een nummer van The Sugar Hill Gang. En Rapper's Delight wordt de eerste hit van de hip-hopcultuur.
I think myself and most DJs are influenced by him, and most producers who produce house music and electronic music. I don't know how many songs of his has been sampled and done into different, you know, house music songs and stuff. So I think everyone who is a DJ has taken inspiration from, or is a producer / DJ, you know, has taken inspiration from him.
Het repertoire van Rodgers en Edwards is tot op de dag van vandaag het meest gesampelde van de hele wereld. De generatie van hip-hop, R&B en electro met artiesten als Faith Evans, Notorious B.I.G., Will Smith en ook de Franse house act Mojo maakt vanaf de jaren 90 gebruik van de grootste successen van het duo. Zo worden hun nummers doorgegeven aan het nageslacht.
when I got sick with cancer, and it was not clear whether I was going to live or die, I reverted to doing more music. I wouldn't say revert, it's not quite right, but I chose to do more music. I chose to write more music. I chose to perform more, because whenever I was thinking about music and the performance or the creative process, I always felt like I had a friend. I had something that I could depend upon, and I always felt like I had something that I didn't want to let down. Because I booked so many concerts, because I worked on so many records, I looked at it as if I were going to die, this would give me a reason to wake up the next morning. So every night that I went to bed, I always felt positive that I wasn't going to die in my sleep, because I had a job to do the next day. And it gave me a very positive outlook.
Like the legend of the phoenix, all ends with beginnings.
Na de pop en de hip-hop begeeft avant-gardist Nile Rodgers zich in de electro-scene. Zijn kennis en zijn talent sluiten fantastisch aan op die van de grootste DJ-producers. Behalve op Get Lucky werkt Nile op nog 2 nummers samen met Daft Punk, waaronder Lose Yourself to Dance. Voor Rodgers is het een echte wedergeboorte.
When the Robots asked me to come to the studio to work on Get Lucky before it was even Get Lucky, you know, it's just a track, they asked me to play them some stuff that I had been working on, and that's when I played them, like, you know, the Adam Lambert record, and I played a couple of other records. And I said to them, I was like, yeah, you know, I've just been influenced as of recent by Nile Rodgers. And they was like, oh, yeah, that's funny. He actually played on this song that we want you to write to.
I started with playing like, so once I said, if that's what the basic chords are, that in and of itself doesn't sound interesting to me, because you want to have improvisation in the middle of it. So you play, and I would play, and then I play, and I play, and then play, and I play. It was unbelievably comfortable for me to work with them, because they were taking me back to a place that feels so normal to me.
And the Grammy goes to...
Get Lucky. Daft Punk.
Het album van Daft Punk is een van de grootste muzikale successen van de afgelopen jaren. De 4 Grammy Awards zijn een kroon op de samenwerking tussen deze artiesten die de grootste bewondering voor elkaar hebben. Zoals hij met Daft Punk al heeft bewezen, is Rodgers een man die meegaat met zijn tijd en een scherp oog heeft voor nieuwe stromingen. Zo werkt hij ook samen met Avicii.
At the same time as he is known for a certain sound, for that kind of funkiness, he's very open-minded to doing all sorts of music. I always have a vision when it comes to like melody and where I want the track to go, and so does he. And I think we just kind of inspire each other too. Even though, like you said, we're from such different generations, and it's crazy how it works. That even though like he's from a different time, we still get along so well together.
The great thing about working with a person like Avicii is people call people like that DJs, and I find that's almost like when people used to call Chic a disco band. It made it seem one-dimensional. Avicii is not just a DJ. He's a DJ because he's playing back his music live and playing other people's music live. But he's a composer. He's a musician. He's a composer. He's just like me. It's just that he doesn't play the guitar, but he does his compositions on an electronic instrument. In the year 1960, when they built this body, and the year 59, when they built this neck, you'd have only probably had 3 bodies like this, and you wouldn't have had any guitars that would have had this body and neck combination. I didn't know that everything was thinner than normal, and the whole scale is thinner. My guitar is light as a feather compared to any of these other Stratocasters. So this mistake, which I didn't know was a mistake, wound up becoming an essential part of my sound. It's springier and more vibrant than a normal Strat. Even though you hear me, I'm not plugged in, I have no amplification, you can always hear the... A lot of my engineers say that it has a sort of hollow character to it. And you can hear whenever I play any other guitar, none of them sound like this, no matter how brilliant they sound.
At last, I am free. I can hardly see in front of me. I can hardly see in front of me.
I'm talking to him all the time about new sessions. It's always ongoing. He's definitely one of the best, or the best production partner I've ever sat down with.
Nile is responsible for a huge portion of the 70s and 80s and even 90s. And look at him now, even into the 2000s.
Unfortunately, now that Bernard Edwards is no longer with me, I sort of have to hold up the house. The house that I'm holding up is still the house that we built. I want to be a guitar player and a composer, and after I make those compositions, I want to be able to go out on stage and play them.
So not a lot louder. Can we just groove?
Tout le monde le considère aujourd'hui comme une légende vivante. Maintenant, il regarde toujours en avant. Donc sa volonté, elle est de remettre en avant la marque Chic. Quelle valeur il va mettre derrière? Ça ne peut pas être le Chic de l'époque, parce que cette époque est révolue. Il l'a tenté en 92, et il ne veut pas faire un album pour les puristes, parce que les puristes ne seront jamais totalement contents de ce qu'il pourra faire, parce qu'on vit avec le passé des albums de Chic, et on ne peut pas reproduire quelque chose qui était déjà parfait.
Now it's my record, or Chic's record. It's got the name Chic on it, but the process is still the same. If you go back to our very first record and you look at every record up until now, it's me working with the best people that are available to do what they do.
If I'm lucky enough to make the cut, I would love to be, to work with him on something he's done for Chic. I think he told me he wanted me to, which I was like, yes. But whenever he's ready. It's him. I mean, come on, man. He's a living legend. Not many people can say that. Living legend.
Met het nieuwe album van Chic is dit muzikale genie weer helemaal terug. Hij blijft verrassen in een branche waarin het moeilijk is om aan de top te blijven. Maar heeft Nile Rodgers inmiddels al zijn geheime prijzen gegeven?
The reason why I think that I do music so well in the moment is because I want to do it fast. I want to save you money. I want to make you happy. I want you to walk around going, I can't wait to work with this person again.
If Nile does have a secret as a hitmaker, I think it's keeping it simple and keeping in the groove.
He has great energy. He's great with people. They're the main things that you need as a producer.
Je pense que sa tête, elle travaille tout le temps. Elle est tout le temps en musique.
Great musicianship, a great understanding of every instrument.
And he's so talented, so he can do pretty much anything you ask of him.
He is a prolific producer, an incredible writer. He dominates. When he does it, he dominates.
It's something that I know that after I'm dead, people will still sing We Are Family. That's an amazing thing to have happen. I pretty much have an idea that people will sing Good Times. I pretty much have an idea that people will sing Aw, Freak Out. And on some level, they'll sing Upside Down and I'm Coming Out and many other compositions. So I'm now in that phase where I want to create music not so that I can add to my legacy, if you will. That's not what's important. I want to create music because it gives me drive and determination and focus, and it gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. And the day that I don't wake up, they'll say, well, I guess he wasn't thinking about a song last night.